In this episode of Hot Hardware, it's 2.5 Geeks. We've got new iPhones. We've got flipping and folding phones. Is smartphone innovation dead or just bleeding demise? We'll be discussing that and a few more things next. He's bleeding demise.
That's exactly what I'm like. What the hell is bleeding demise?
That's Monty Python, man. That's prime stuff, brother.
Oh man, I'm not up on my Monty Python lore.
It's something to be like walks into a pet store or something, and he's looking at a bird or something, and the bird's like dead in the cage. And anyways, yeah, he's bleeding demise. So yes, welcome back to yet another fine episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, where we're gonna crack a few jokes along the way and keep it light for you. Good to see everybody again. I'm Dave Altavilla, as always. With me, my esteemed compatriots, esteemed somewhere, they may be infamous in other places, Marco Chipset, the illustrious, esteemed, infamous Marco Chipset, and Chris Getting from the backwoods of Maine, where, you know, he can hide out and they don't have to worry about their warrants as much up there. How you doing, fellas?
Doing all right. Can't complain. A little tired. Could use an early night's sleep tonight. Yeah, things are good.
Yep. Sleep is always welcome.
It's overrated. It's overrated. No rest for the weary, or as we say up here in New England, on a Bill Belichick coached team, no days off. No days off. Sorry.
I woke up in the middle of the night last night, because I'm an old man now and you got to pee a couple times in the middle of the night. And my dog was staring at the edge of my bed. And if you've seen a pit bull stare at something intently, like something's going on. So I went to do my thing. I come back in the room and she's asleep. So I don't know if I dreamed it or if like something woke me up in my room and the dog sensed it. It was a very funky evening.
We're in New England. You have ghosts.
Probably. My house is 100 years old, so there is a good chance that multiple people died here.
She wasn't plotting, until you fell off into deeper sleep of, just attacking the jugular and taking you out.
I doubt it. It was funny because she didn't even acknowledge me. Like she was just staring at the edge of the bed, just looking with that mean face.
She had to stare down the ghost.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she scared whoever was
saving your life.
Maybe.
Did you break wind or something like that? Maybe she was annoyed by you.
I mean, she has to be used to that at this point.
It's true. It's true. Chris, how's Freckles doing up there? Since we're talking about dogs, Freckle giving you any kind of weird looks?
No weird looks, but actually just before the stream, I took her out and there were actually 2 deer in the backyard. So almost made some new friends. Fortunately, I saw them before she did and was able to get her reined back in. But yeah, haven't seen deer in the yard before. We're in the woods, but we're pretty close to the city and right along the river where deers don't typically have access to our yard. So I don't know. It's cool to see them.
Yeah, we tend to get plenty of vermin out here. The deer are nice, actually. They're not really vermin, but we get all kinds of stuff from wild turkeys to deer. And I have a little Jack Russell Terrier, and he thinks he's going to have lunch at any given time, but can't catch any of them, so that's fine.
We've got a herd of turkeys that comes through. We've got squirrels and chipmunks galore, fox every so often. First time seeing the deer here. Everywhere else, of course.
Speaking of herds of turkeys, we should probably, herd together some tech talk. What do you say, fellas? Huh?
Sure.
Turkeys that we are. Well, and we should also say that welcome if you're tuning in from the LinkedIn sphere. We are now broadcasting simultaneously across LinkedIn as well. So we got YouTube, we got Twitch, Hot Hardware Twitch, where hopefully you tuned in last night and saw Val. Val is our game streamer. She kicks in at 7:30s on Wednesdays. We missed you last night. We're usually here on Wednesdays, but here today, had to push just to manage some work-related stuff. But so we got LinkedIn, we got Twitch, we got YouTube, we've got Facebook, we've got all the hookups. So welcome if you're joining us from a new platform. Good to see you. Thanks for spending some time. But let's talk about what we got in the labs real quick, and then we'll tease some headlines real quick, and then we'll talk about the main event, which is smartphone innovation and Apple versus Samsung and whoever else you want to throw under the bus. for some fun. But let's talk about what you got in the lab right now. I've got some interesting audio stuff, which we'll get to. Marco, what do you got on the burner right now? Anything interesting that you're kicking the tires on?
I think once I wrap a little side project that you and I have going on, I am shifting gears to a build video and then to Beast Canyon.
Beast Canyon, that's right. That's the big old NUC, which isn't even really a NUC anymore. It's more of like a mini PC.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw the previous NUC Extreme, take that one with the compute module, extend out the back so it can accommodate in a full-size graphics card, and you have Beast Canyon.
There you go. It's an interesting looking machine for sure. We'll be waiting with bated breath for your evaluations of that. We're a little behind the curve on that one. I think we somehow had a disconnect with Intel, but we're circling back on it, and it's probably refined a little bit since the launch. So I'll be interested to hear some more from you on that. Chris, what do you got cooking? I think you had something behind you there, if I could see clearly with my old eyes in your shot.
Yep,
yes.
right here. I've got the Lenovo ThinkPad P15, I believe it is. So I'm running that through its test now. It's got a Intel Core i9 on board, along with a NVIDIA RTX A 5000, I believe, for the GPU. So far, all the tests I've run, it has pretty much crushed. So very, very impressive performance I'm seeing with it so far. Hopefully we'll have the full review out in the next week or so.
Kind of a Pro Series ThinkPad. It has a professional
very
NVIDIA
much
GPU
so
in there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, total workstation grade, professional applications, your AutoCAD and everything else. It'll tear right through it.
15-inch machine? 15 or 13?
15-inch, and it has a 1080p display. I haven't checked yet to see if it has other display options for it, but very, very, like, I know we're pretty used to wide viewing angles on screens now, but like you can literally get completely in line with the screen and it still looks like full brightness and color accuracy all the way across. Very nice.
Nice. Yeah, for pro graphics work and that kind of stuff, that's important. IPS, I would imagine, or is it something different? Okay, so one of their higher bright IPS displays then, obviously. Cool stuff. I'll drop in this one. That's the Beast Canyon NUC that Marco talked about. And I've got something in the lab right now, which is going to be a quick take, quickie, but I would highly recommend this little fella right here, actually a pair of them. This is the TCL Move Audio S600 wireless noise canceling buds, active noise canceling buds. And I got to tell you, I am tickled pink by these little fellas. They're stylish, good looking, not too gaudy. Doesn't look like you get straws hanging out of your ears or anything like that. But the acoustics are fantastic. The audio from like right now, because I can use it live on the stream, latency response is excellent. I'm not getting any delay on the stream, which is great. So Bluetooth latency is nice and low, and active noise canceling is pretty darn good as well. So impressed. For like $99, I'll have to drop a link in the chat if I can find that. Really can't go wrong. I'll drop it into drop an Amazon link. There you go. That's for the white model. I couldn't find the black ones that I have. A little bit more understated, I think. And unless you like the straw tip look, So, anyways, that's the TCL Move Audio S600s. So far, highly recommended. They may get an EC. I don't know. They're scoring pretty well in my my brain right now. But that review should be coming in the next couple of days. So there you go. That's what we got on the burners. Let's talk about what's going on in the interwebs. A little bit of quick little news. Man, Alder Lake is all over the place, leaking like a sieve. Whether you look at benchmarks, dropping a few links in the chat right now. Intel's next generation hybrid architecture, Alder Lake. There you go. There's the i9 12900K, which is an 8+8 architecture, 8 performance cores, 8 efficiency cores. Looking fairly strong. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can bring it up or not, but looking fairly strong. Actually, there you go. This is the one that might have some graphs. It's actually competitive from what we've seen with a Ryzen 9 5950X 16 core in some applications. Single threaded looks a little better. This is an interesting one. That is, I'm trying to think what benchmark that is. That is
this is the
that's Geekbench. That's Geekbench, which is kind of like I'm not so thrilled with that. But I was seeing in the root source of this where the leak originated. I believe I'm trying to think it was a site out in the Middle East, and I'm forgetting, but there you go. It's on the screen there. They're watermarked. Anyways, there's some
like a Posmar mag or something like that.
Exactly. What he said. There's some blender scores as well that they listed there, and it was actually edging out a 5950X in Blender, which I think is a much better a much better metric for that. This is the CPU encoding test for what? What's that one for? That's a good question.
That was CPU encoding. That's a render test.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was the H.260. I know they had H.264 in there and a couple other video encoding tests, but I saw Blender as well, Blender CPU, and that's usually a good metric for like raw CPU throughput. Looking good, right?
It looks strong. I think in the lead up, there was so much discussion about Big Little and how the schedulers are going to handle that. And I think as we get closer to Windows 11, and now that we know some more information about the architecture, I am more optimistic than I was before. I think Alder Lake, I don't think 8 of their cores. So with what is it? 32 threads. No, it's 32 threads, right? No, I'm sorry.
24 threads. 24. Yeah.
24 threads with 8 big cores is not going to compete with 32 threads of all big cores on a Ryzen in many multi-threaded workloads. But for the vast majority of everything else, there's a possibility that really strong single thread and the particularly strong 8 big cores really do wonders for Alder Lake in a large number of apps. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it.
Yeah, there's the partitioning, as you can see right there, for what's leaked out for model numbers and cores and threads and all that good stuff. Big Little, take it with a grain of salt. It's all early leak stuff. Looks fairly credible. But yeah, you can see there, 24 thread is the maximum config, 20 thread and 16 thread chips. i9, i7, i5. Chris, any thoughts there before we move on? Interesting stuff to see it out in the wild. It's getting close.
Yeah, I mean it's leaked benchmarks, so at best there's still development to be done. We'll see when they're actually here in the flesh for us to take a look at. Until then, it's kind of just numbers on the screen.
There you go. Yeah, there was there was some strength shown and stuff like Blender, which again is a rendering 3D rendering test. But then there was also some weakness shown in things like PC Mark, which would stand to reason because now you're talking about Windows optimizations and schedulers and thread director becoming more important to the test. In a test like PC Mark, where you're talking about trace-based application tests, productivity type tests in Windows and content creation. So we'll have to see. Another thing that leaked out real quickly was some performance on DDR5 6400 megahertz memory. I dropped the link into the chat for that. Check that out. Interesting, amazing, looking bandwidth numbers, tempered with higher latency, as you might expect. So 90,000 megabytes per second of read-write bandwidth, roughly. So serious bandwidth, but latency high at 92 nanoseconds, relatively high versus, say, DDR4. That's traditionally the case, right, Marco? Out of the chute, what we see with the new memory technology, memory interface technology, in this case DDR5 versus legacy DDR4, usually out of the chute, we have nice high clock speeds, amazing looking bandwidth, but the latency's not great. And then over time, things mature and DRAM manufacturers wring out those latencies, right?
I mean, absolutely. To hit those high clocks, I think the timings on this memory in this post was like 40, 40, 40, 85. Way back in the day, we used to have, CAS 2 RAM when it was like PC 133. So as speeds increase, it's often common for the latencies on the DRAM to increase. But yeah, I mean, this is still early. I wouldn't be surprised if these are real numbers that leaked. I wouldn't be surprised if they're significantly better by the time we actually check launch product.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember, I think we are talking the true latency here. So that's when you have your RAM running at certain number of cycles per second that, gives you your megahertz rating. And then you have the number of cycles before it actually registers your CAS latency. And so you've got to combine those together to figure out what the true latency of the RAM is, the actual time it takes to go from instruction to getting it in memory.
To data. Yeah, good stuff. And I'm going to drop another link in the chat here. This is on the platform. We won't stay too much on it, but Z690 information leaked out. And PCI Express 5, DDR5, really nothing too surprising there because some of it's been disclosed. Different sorts of performance modes highlighted as well. But it will be interesting to watch. I think, what's interesting there is you've got a full by 16 PCI Express 5 length right off the root complex. That can be bifurcated into a 2x8. And then you've got 1x4, also off the root complex for an SSD, PCI Express 4 link by 4. So, plumbed up nice. I mean, then you can add, additional... it looks like up to 12 PCI Express 4 off the South Bridge. Really just decked out and, well plumbed, I guess, platform. So that should be good for Alder Lake system builders in general.
Yeah, I think when you combine all of these features together is when you end up with a really interesting platform. So you have all that monster bandwidth and latest interfaces to the CPU. What that means for storage, we'll find out when we get to play with it. You have basically all of the latest I/O plus new cores plus new threading technology with the new OS coming. There's a strong possibility that this platform is going to be very different, in terms of experience to stuff that we're playing with today.
Yeah. We'll take it. And we'll have to keep tabs on it. Should be learning some more very soon if all of these rumblings are any indication. Usually the quicker the leaks come, the closer we're getting to launch, right?
Exactly.
But we can't tell you much right now, that's for sure. Can't really say there. We'll be on the short list guaranteed, so stay tuned. It should be fun to watch. Interesting little tidbit here from the folks at AMD. They deny favoring miners and promise supplies for their Radeon cards will improve soon. This was some comments from an exec to a financial community. He was being challenged. I'd have to reference who the exec was exactly. It wasn't somebody that came to my top of mind. But they were being challenged with respect to AMD's revenue from crypto mining, which is negligible, according to, AMD CFO Devinder Kumar. I should know that name. Touched on both points for crypto mining and then what the supply looks like moving forward. And as we roll into 2022, we were encouraged that supply will improve. That they expect to be improving on this current shortage situation that we have been in for far too long. Thoughts, comments, gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear why AMD would say that when you have NVIDIA producing mining specific cards, whereas AMD hasn't done that. I know there's been some rumors that XFX had something coming, but it clearly is not a focus, or we would have seen more and heard more. And it is what it is. I think NVIDIA's cards are more sought after anyway by miners. So it's a fair statement, I think. Yeah. Yep. No, absolutely. I think
think it's going to be nice when we get a little bit of relief in this. But right now, the demand is still there, and supply is just coming up short.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
it's not just miners. We have all the supply chain shortages, all of the issues related to COVID. We have really lots of pent up demand from gamers, and we have miners going after stuff. So it's really like the perfect storm for all of this. And hopefully, individually, some of those pieces get better, and then this time next year, everybody's happy. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
I think you will start to see that turnaround. I think the investment that currently is going on now in the chip industry is unprecedented. I hate to use that word because it was worn out for COVID, but it really is. I track a couple of key stocks in the semiconductor supply chain space. So beyond just the chip manufacturers, guys like Applied Materials, they supply semiconductor fab equipment, and different technologies for chip. They're going gangbusters right now. Their stock's off the hook. Their numbers are, blowing out every quarter, and it's because the ordering is it's not letting up. So I think we'll get on the other side of this in the not so distant future.
Right. It's one of the most complex supply chains we have in the world right now, and it's very, very sensitive to even the slightest disruptions. So it's the unfortunate nature of it. That said, I do have multiple friends who have won the Newegg Shuffle to get GPUs. Usually you have to buy something else with it. One of whom has won it 3 times. So if you are desperate to get your hands on a GPU, seems to me that's a pretty good way to go right now. Prices are still high for sure, but worth a shot.
There you go. Well, check that out. And I know there's a few other guys, like EVGA has a program that works pretty well as well, right?
Yeah, and I have ASML is in my backyard. If anybody wants me to go knock on the door with a baseball bat and say, "Get on this problem," I'll do it. I'm in that kind of mood.
Your Italian showing a little bit there, Marco.
A little bit.
All right. Well, let's mention 2 real quick reviews before we move on to the phone industry, because there's a lot to chew on there. Lots of announcements. 2 reviews that broke across the wire in the last week or so since we missed you. The Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360. Which is a thin and light. In this case, we looked at the 15-inch version of the machine, and then the MSI GE76 Raider. But that's the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro 360, probably one of the best ultralight machines on the market these days, with Intel's 11th gen Core series processor technology, so Tiger Lake under the hood. And in this case, an 1165 G7, 15.6-inch Super AMOLED 1080p display. Gorgeous. It is a multi-touch display as well, but super punchy, just like you might expect with AMOLED. And Samsung makes, basically for all intents and purposes, the best displays in the business. 68 watt-hour battery, and this thing still only weighs in at barely over 3 pounds for a 15-inch machine. I don't know how they did that, but nice and thin and light. Killer battery life with a 68 watt-hour battery. Great performance. We gave it an editor's choice, right, Marco?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the kind of machine where Samsung's expertise in mobile devices pays off, because they have expertise with materials. They build the displays. They, God knows, there's a big focus on batteries at Samsung, especially after the Note 7 debacle. So, you take Intel's latest platform with this beautiful chassis and, put it together with all of the things Samsung is good at. And I really like this machine. It's a little too big for me. I like the 13 to 13.
They have a 13-inch version of it.
Right? Yeah, like the 13-inch would be right up my alley, because super fast machine for its size, decent battery life, great screen. It looks good, that nice understated look. I mean, I'm all about this guy. This is a nice machine.
Active pen support as well. So,
yeah.
Chris, I'm sorry.
Very attractive machine. Obviously going into the ultralights, as we're looking at the ports here, you get some Type C, and it looks like it does have a micro SD card reader.
Yep.
So
it's got it all.
Yep.
Checks all the boxes. So good stuff from the folks at Samsung. Congratulations on the editor's choice. You earned it. Great machine, great performance, great battery life, beautiful display. I mean, how can you go wrong? The 13-inch version, I agree, Marco. I would like to see that, but maybe, I don't know, the 15 might be svelte enough for me. I tend to like a 14. It's kind of the tweener. That's why I spend a lot of time on Lenovo laptops, because they embrace the 14-inch display format. Mm-hmm. But yeah, good stuff from the folks at Samsung.
I would love to get rid of these from all computers moving forward. I understand it helps lower costs on a lot of models, but still infuriated to have pre-installed software, especially the antiviruses. They're particularly obnoxious to get rid of.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep moving. We'll touch base real quick on the MSI GE76 Raider laptop, Tiger Lake with an RTX on board, and it is a Gladiator in the benchmarks. I dropped a link. There it is right there. It is a big, powerful machine. It is a no compromise gaming laptop. GeForce RTX 3080 on board, 16 gig config on that, 32 gigs of DDR4 memory, and an Intel Core i9 11980HK 8-core CPU. So as you might expect, it ripped the benchmarks to shreds for a laptop. And yeah, good machine. We also we gave out 2 editors' choices this week. We felt this was one of the best gaming laptops we've seen in a long time from the folks at MSI. There you go. There's the backside of it. It is pricey though. $25.99 starting price, as tested $3,400. But if you need all the performance that you can squeeze into a 17-inch laptop, that's the machine to look at. Any comments on that before we head out, Marco?
Yeah, I mean, considering how expensive desktop GPUs are right now, if you're teetering between a notebook and a new desktop build, and you're looking at that ultra high end, that machine is nuts. I mean, it's 155 watt 3080 with Intel's fastest mobile CPU with fast storage and the best Wi-Fi, and just you name it, it's in this machine. So, super fast display. It's literally got everything. So you're going to pay, but man, that's a nice machine.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that, actually. Is it a 360 hertz display?
I think we did look at the 360. Yeah,
360 hertz IPS. Little on the dim side, 200 nits brightness. But as you can see, it just pummels every benchmark we threw at it. The fastest laptop we've tested pretty much across the board to date. So, I mean, there's a couple of them where it sneaks in, but or just gets beaten, but it's either right on top or winning. Take your pick.
I'll say this: there's this push for brighter and brighter screens, and I usually have my display set pretty dim, anyways. Really helps with the eye strain to not have it blasting in your eyes. I mean, if you're gonna try gaming outside, I guess you can, but otherwise, I wouldn't worry too much about it myself.
That's a notable. Go ahead, Marco.
No, I was going to say I've been calibrating my display as I got more into photography, and if you go by the recommendations from what the heck is the software, the Spider utility software I use in the Spider utility, if you go by the brightness recommendations, if you're used to a bright display and then you go by the calibration recommendations, it looks absolutely dim, but once you get used to it, it's so much easier on the eyes.
Yeah. Good stuff for sure. And this is actually an interesting data point right here. For this machine, we have found that Alienware's line of laptops configures the RTX GPUs, what we would call full performance for the most part. So for it to hang with and or occasionally beat, in this case, it just barely lost out. All things being equal, it's been kind of neck and neck. For it to either beat or hang with the Alienware machine, that's high praise, because again, of all the 30 series GPU configs we've seen in gaming laptops, Alienware as of late has been configuring them the most powerful, and MSI decided to obviously make that happen as well. So great stuff. Battery life, well, you didn't expect a lot of battery life out of a machine like that, right?
5 hours is, where's my math? Yeah, not bad.
Not bad, but it's a gaming laptop, and it is what it is. A little over 5 hours, 5.25 hours or something like that. So Good stuff. All right. Well, let's move on to phones and talk about the headliner that we have in here. Now that we've consumed a little bit of what's happened in the week here, but let's talk about the iPhone 13 series from Apple. Let's talk about some reviews that we've done at Hot Hardware in the last couple of days. The Galaxy Z Flip 3 and Fold 3 from Samsung, and then let's talk about the smartphone, ecosystem innovation or lack thereof. People are kind of yawning about Apple's iPhone 13 launch. Not a lot new. There's a new SoC. It looks pretty powerful. The A15 Bionic, 6-core CPU with up to a 5-core GPU. Significant performance gains. We've already seen some leaked benchmarks on that. I'll drop a link into the chat on that, where it's basically anywhere from 20 to 50% faster than the A14 Bionic, depending on what you're looking at, CPU or GPU, and configure the phone. The Pro Max version of the 13 has a little bit more powerful, the full fat A15 processor. But other than that, you've got basically kind of the same setup. Not a lot different. I think there's a couple of technologies that I was happy to see. Dual eSIM is one of them. Like that, really, I think that slipped under the wire for a lot of folks. Dual eSIM available, eSIM now, so embedded SIM, not just in an eSIM and a SIM card slot that you can use simultaneously, but dual eSIM. So that's great. And the other thing was that millimeter wave supported, 5G millimeter wave supported across the portfolio as well. So sub-6 and millimeter wave are supported across all devices with Qualcomm's Snapdragon X60 modem on board, by the way. And then the price points. Actually topping out at $1,000 an average config for a standard iPhone 13, the non-Pro at $700. So not outrageous. We've gotten used to $1,000 premium flagships now.
You may have gotten used to that.
I guess the market perhaps is used to seeing the sticker. I still,
it hurts.
Whether or not the pocketbook is used to it is a different question. But anyways, let's start here. What did Apple bring here? Seems like kind of an also-ran. I'm not getting anything, whiz bang. Certainly the silicon on board is going to be impressive. Apple does a lot with just 6 cores. So anyways, thoughts, Marco, and then we'll dive into this a little bit more.
Yeah, I think Apple's been phoning in their designs, no pun intended, for generations now. I'm not even being funny, and my stance on Apple, but what their bigger problem is, in my opinion, right? They obviously innovate with the SoC, right? To get those kind of performance jumps, assuming that the rumors and the leaked benchmarks are true, which I am going to assume that, right? They're showing some big performance gains. They obviously know how to make a chip, right? And to get the most out of that chip, they do tons of software work, but they don't talk about that enough. Because if you just look at the phone specs and then look at the design, I could totally see why you would go, I'm going to stick with my 11 or my 10 for, this generation. And those will be like the conversations after launch, after the first few weeks. Of course, they're still going to sell a boatload of these, but they're clearly not innovating in terms of design or experience at all, in my opinion. But the software and the silicon are top notch, and they need to talk about that more, because that has a huge impact on performance and what your product actually delivers in your hand. So I'm going to give them a little praise in that regard, but man, what an ugly phone that looks like something from 5 years ago.
Wow. Okay. I wouldn't, I think their devices look great, and whether or not, beauty is in the eye of the beholder in terms of the industrial design. But I agree, it hasn't changed.
I can't stand the look of their camera bumps or camera arrays. The weird angles. It looks like a nightmare to clean.
It does. It
Yeah,
does.
I
It
don't
looks like
know.
it looks like it might take some abuse. Certainly, you're going to have a case on there that's going to protect those cameras. Extend past that thinner body. But
Just make it a thicker body and put some battery in there.
well, anyways, it's they're claiming significantly better battery life. There's a couple of other smaller features that I guess that's what I was looking for was show us something truly innovative in terms of a new feature or capability that Apple has in the past brought to market, and I'm not seeing that. I think there's a new video mode now that gives you slick rack focus effects, so you can fire up the video camera and it'll focus on a subject in the foreground, and then you can switch to the background and
Right.
switch focus back again.
It's
cool.
it's creating a depth map, so you can do that after the fact. Which is interesting, but
it's only
as convincing as fake blur it can be. So
yeah,
and,
well,
that's purely computational photography, which is their software.
Right.
They present it as a feature like this, but the magic is how they did it in the software.
Yeah, and that's really that's kind of it. I'm looking for, you've got LiDAR in the camera again. This is not new. You've got lots of general purpose enhancements that I'm just wondering, what else can we bring to the mobile phone platform for iPhone for Apple users? And I'm just like, for me, if you're on an iPhone 12 Pro, what's the motivation to jump?
I think the ultra wide camera can autofocus now and couldn't before for some reason.
Okay. That is new. Yeah, but is that enough to get a new phone? Yeah. So if you look at all the specs, it really feels like, okay, all of this stuff has been in the Android ecosystem forever, right?
Right.
But the silicon and the software is where they're differentiated, and they don't talk about it enough.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, I would agree. I think if you talk with anybody on an iPhone, in general, the fact that Apple has wrung out the "it just works" aspect of it. I think Android users like the platform because of the customizability and the way to get it. You can get your hands in and tweak and tune to your heart's delight. But Apple just makes it mainstream. Accessible to the mainstream and functional as possible, and optimizing the experience that way. But other than that, as you noted, Marco, there's really nothing here that's any more innovative. We have 120 hertz displays. Okay, we've got 144 on Android now. Up to 1,000 nits brightness. Again, nothing too crazy there. I'm sure the displays are going to be beautiful. Nice, almost QHD plus resolutions on them. They're just short of that. But nice high res displays. I wonder what battery life is going to be like.
So I was just going to bring that up. So they're saying battery life is going to be good, right? But if you're a current iPhone user and you grab an iPhone 13, that faster screen and faster SoC is going to make it feel beastly next to a previous gen iPhone. So I could see people so for us, because we see everything and we look at all of the phones, we know, okay, these specs perhaps aren't all that impressive relative to some phones in the Android ecosystem. But if you're not a super nerd like us and you're just an iPhone user saying, hey, maybe I'm going to upgrade my iPhone, as soon as you play with that iPhone 13, it's probably going to wow a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So initial satisfaction is probably going to be super high for that thing.
Interesting. Yeah. And then they're also claiming on the battery life front that the 13 Pro lasts 1.5 hours longer than the 12 Pro before, and the Pro Max lasts 2.5 hours longer, than the 12 Pro Max before it. And so they are claiming, specific battery life gains. I think the mini and the standard will last 1.5.
Screen time? Is that under load, sitting there doing nothing with the screen off?
I think it's mixed use. My guess is you'd have to assume it's mixed use. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But they make some general claims as they always do, and then you want to try and substantiate them. But again, I think what the bigger question here is, what are we seeing from Apple these days in terms of technology and innovation? And we're asking the question: is smartphone innovation dead? Now let's shift gears. Let's talk about what Samsung's brought out this year and how very different these products are versus an iPhone. Let's talk about this review that just went up. I'll drop a link in the chat. The Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3. And there it is right there. That is a 6.7-inch display that folds in the middle into like a compact size, drops that phone down to this, tiny little sandwich in your pocket. Obviously double thick, but, brings the height down, which I think is a nice boon for a number of, ergonomic advantages, obviously. Great camera chops, as always, from Samsung. Snapdragon 888 on board, so powerful SoC, plenty of RAM and storage, AMOLED display, also gorgeous from Samsung. Little crease in it, that's the horizontal crease that you're just going to get. But lots of interesting additional capabilities with a phone that can flip up like that. Not only can you obviously, shut it down and have a quick glance screen on the backside, lots of things you can do with the camera. By the way, when a phone will stand up like that on its own and flip up, the backside camera and the front side camera, the selfie cam, right? Really just super innovative. It's their third crack at a foldable display, and they've really wrung it out. You've got that, as you're pointing out there with the cursor there, Chris. You've got a crease that's there, but it's not that much of a detractor. What are your thoughts? This seems like at least some innovation. And then let's also talk about what Samsung's been bringing to the table beyond just folding displays, like some of the camera chops that I can talk about. But what are your thoughts there, Marco?
So I think Samsung is really trying to push the envelope with foldables, and with these first two models, they're blazing a new trail. So there are lots of kinks to work out, and these are not easy problems to solve. You have a super high resolution AMOLED display with a crease in it, folding how many thousands of times over the product's life. It's not easy to pull something like that off. So for now, if they have to have that larger pre-crease or pre-fold in there to make sure everything hinges properly and nothing gets snagged and broken, fine. That is a easy small trade-off for the form factor. And what the form factor does, as you mentioned, is enable new use cases. So little things like being able to stand your phone up and position it if you want to stream something, or you're trying to take a group selfie and you want to set the phone on a step and fold it up halfway so you can get a larger group, and like little stuff like that. These innovations change how you can use your device. So in that regard, Samsung, in my opinion, is definitely pushing the envelope way further than Apple at this point. Now, is it a better phone? You could totally debate that, right? So again, Apple's platform is awesome, especially if you ask iPhone users, they love the platform. But in terms of actually innovating, I don't think there's any way you can argue that Apple's out innovating Samsung in the phone space.
Yeah. No, I would totally agree. This is again, on this phone, you've got again a foldable 120 hertz display. It's adaptive refresh, by the way. It doesn't always. It's when it, you can benefit from transitions or some animation. It'll kick it into high gear. So it's an intelligent display in that regard. Lots with it that, as you can see right there, there's a perfect example. You're looking at the backside camera, propped up and, able to take a shot. So yeah, some key functionality added in addition to what I would call just cool industrial design. Like that is so compact. That's such a nice form factor. So there's lots of pluses to the industrial design, plus real world form and function, not just, pretty design chops. The other thing that I think people miss with Samsung is what they've been doing with their cameras in terms of software tricks. Apple's got in the iPhone 13 that new focus mode for video. That's an interesting new novel thing for iPhone users. The ability to focus on different subjects in a video shot. But we've seen a lot of different effects from Samsung over the years in its phone software. One of the things that I thought was great in the last, I think it was the S21 launch, was the director mode, where you can fire up the rear camera, show what the rear camera sees. The selfie camera kicks on, puts you picture in picture, and now I'm having a communication with you, talking on screen, showing you my surroundings, and either capturing video, having a chat, maybe it's whatever a face chat you want to do, or taking a picture, and it's pretty impressive.
I can tell you on the video chat side, just from a tech support perspective, to be able to have someone show what they're doing while you can also communicate with them directly face to face, as you're providing remote support, is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can think of a myriad of applications that could make use of that. I'm thinking guys like real estate agents. You walk into a home, hey, it's me, Joe, or whoever, and I'm your real estate agent up in the top corner, and here, look at this lovely home. I mean, very practical, useful, thoughtful inclusions. And so, yeah, I don't know. I expect more, and but are we relegated now to just party tricks though? Like,
well, I guess the question
where are we going with phones? Is
what can your phone not do that you would even like it to do? I mean, I think the form factor changes we're seeing with Samsung are interesting. The Fold is nice to get the other uses, like same thing with laptops that have the 360-degree hinge. You can put them in different formats in the stand mode or tent mode, wherever they want to call it, and get some different usage out of it, which is nice. But really, what do you need your phone to do that it doesn't do?
So my answers to that are going to be mostly software related, but may require hardware innovations to enable properly. Like, I want more contextually aware phone where it knows when I'm near my desktop PC or when I'm away, and I can have my experience more seamlessly blend between my phone and my desktop. To give an example, let's say I am on a Teams meeting or a Zoom on my desktop, and it's, I'm cutting a tight timeline where I have to run to another event or do something else. I want to be able to just, tap something on my phone, or maybe hold my phone next to my screen. It transfers over and I leave,
So you want AirDrop.
But that works though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just features like that. I want my phone to have a more seamless experience with my PC, because I'm still one of those users where real work gets done on the PC, but I can't sit at the desk 100% of the time.
But is that, again, that's software. That's not really something that you need a new model of phone for necessarily, unless they're just forcing you to get the new model to get the new trick. But
wireless technologies that probably need to be developed to do this with low enough power to not severely impact battery life. And there's probably additional sensors to, not have to maybe rely on just a Wi-Fi signal or what have you in terms of proximity to a PC. There's lots of things that have to be thought out.
And a lot of that the phone probably already has, and your desktop PC doesn't. I mean, there's a lot of desktop PCs that straight up don't have Bluetooth, or maybe don't even have Wi-Fi. So it may be accessorizing on the computer side.
PC Bluetooth sucks.
True.
Most of the time, So.
No, you make very good points, Marco. I think one of the things that's missing, and I would agree, is PC phone integration needs to be a lot better than it is. We're actually going to be doing a little bit of research in that regard on how the PC will evolve to innovate with the smartphone and to better integrate the functionalities. But you hit on something for me that I think was kind of, is core to an evolving smartphone. That, let's face it, multi-billion-dollar companies with, big research R&D departments that, are looking at this, engineering departments looking at, what can we solve? What problems can we solve for consumers with smartphones or with mobile devices in general? Contextually aware computing, I think, is huge, and that's a big, exploited area of the market, opportunity in the market, and contextually aware also plays into what you're talking about, interoperability with other devices. I think there's a lot more that can be done with that. That can be done with that from a standpoint of media in your house when you walk into your living room and you're, knowing you're there, and how does it integrate with your phone? There's too many separate silos of technology these days from mobile technology that need to be integrated better, I think. But
yeah. No, absolutely. I think that, the market's necessarily considered like smartphones and tablets as competitors to the PC, but now that both markets are completely saturated, it's time for them to start working together. Because then you might all of a sudden have people wanting to upgrade both at the same time, or wanting a specific feature that the phone enables, but they don't have it in their PC, or vice versa. It's time to start integrating, and for these large companies to work together on this kind of stuff.
I guess yes, but we also have to be very aware of the security footprint that we're extending with this. It's already difficult to keep your personal information private on the internet as it is, and when your devices start automatically sharing that information, that could potentially be sniffed by someone else on the network or anything else. If security is lax, maybe it has an outdated form of encryption that never gets updated because the manufacturer has no incentive to. I don't know. I'm just so wary of so much of that I want my devices to be as dumb as possible, to be quite honest.
And then over and above that, if you rely on the cloud and you have to have all of your data going through someone else's service as well, I'm more and more getting like you, where like I don't even want to put some of my photos and stuff in the cloud because these companies are scanning it to train their their AI models, and it's like, whoa, I didn't give you permission to scan my photo. I mean, I did if I accepted the terms of service, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm growing more and more leery of having my data out there as well, no matter what it is.
In 5 years, I'll probably be buying a flip phone, but it's not going to be a smartphone.
There you go.
Well, you guys, I'm surprised, technologists that you are.
Because we're aware of what the technology does, and it's terrifying.
Okay. So here's the thing now.
I see the things that students and even professors do to get themselves in trouble with their technology already on campus.
Right. But what you're describing is a problem that needs to be solved. Okay. There needs to be, number one, better built-in privacy, hooks and integration to dial, the knobs the way you like. Number two, security needs to be paramount. What kind of innovation have we seen these companies talk about in terms of security? Samsung has Knox. They market it heavily towards the enterprise space, but like for mainstream consumer security, why aren't we seeing more innovation in that regard? We're putting credit cards into phones these days, right? I can take a picture of my credit card, integrate it for touchless payments in my phone. Talk to me about the security that's integrated with that solution.
And there are
how secure is it?
Some good security arguments that could be made in favor of doing that, for things like generating a one-time use credit card number to use with the vendor, so that your credit card information never really leaves the provider that's doing the service for you. There are some good ways to tackle that, but again, if you're not properly securing your phone because your PIN is 1234, it's not very secure. I mean, yeah, someone could take your credit card and run off with it and swipe it, but at least you stand a chance that could be flagged for fraudulent use or something. That
gotta change my PIN.
Yeah.
Well, that's
1, 2, 3.
I mean, you're describing again another problem that needs to be solved. Passwords are archaic, right? Because people have to generate them. And the human gets in the way. So,
and you've got the $1 trillion solution if you can come up with something better.
There's big companies Microsoft's working on that. There was a headline that they came out with a little bit more information about how they're going to eliminate passwords for Windows and in the Windows platform in general. but there's lots of area. What we're describing here again, and I think what's kind of core to our discussion is there's lots of opportunity for innovation here, that we could fix some of these things. We could make people feel more secure, legitimately be more secure, make people feel more empowered with their privacy settings by integrating some better features into these phones. That, software and hardware. When you talk about phone integration into mobile platforms or to PC platforms, you need better connectivity hooks to do that.
But we're dealing with companies that have, for the longest time, you have a switch to turn off your location data, but they still use your location data while it's switched off. They just don't let your apps have access to it. So, I mean, how do we trust these companies?
That's a different kettle of fish.
I had come up with what I thought was the perfect security mechanism. That, I applied for the patent, and my advisors ultimately talked me out of it. It was an under-screen lick sensor, so you lick your display, and it worked. It worked twofold to identify you and prevent anybody else from wanting to touch your device. But I don't know, they thought it wouldn't catch on, so I just did a bunch of money there.
Hey, your tongue print is unique.
Wow. Okay. Well, and let's drop another link in just to show the Fold. This is the other review we had up today, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3. So instead of the flip, this folds like a pamphlet in the middle. I don't know if you can pull that up. There you go, making it a much larger device in general. Interesting device for sure. 7.6 inch fully extended. And it also has a 6.2 inch cover display when it's closed. You can see it right there. So lots of screen real estate. Certainly for, productivity, people that are, road warriors using devices like in a lot of task switching kind of environment, or with pen support. Definitely an interesting device. Here, the hinge and the Fold becomes a little bit more of a problem because the crease is more prominent, goes vertical right down the middle. But still, what we're seeing here now is that Samsung has really refined this and has begun to make good use of the technology with all kinds of features, right, Marco?
Yeah, the Fold is interesting. Like, normally I'm all for bigger phones, right? This is a little too big for me because when it's folded, it's a little too thick. And when it's opened up, it's a little unwieldy, right? Just on its own. It does enable some of those cool new use cases because it's foldable and you can do temp mode and stand it up to like the flip, et cetera, et cetera. Like, when I look at the Fold, what I envision moving forward, right, is somehow making the device thinner, let's say half as thick as it is now, if that's doable, and incorporating a full desktop mode. Sorry, I'm tired, and a keyboard. And now you have, like, really, you step up your potential to get work done. It's not going to be quite like a laptop, but you're talking, almost a Microsoft Surface that could fold up and be in your pocket. And if you can get to this form factor with a keyboard as well, and some sort of stand, that's pretty crazy. And we just had
Droid 2.
Yeah, we just had James Pryor pop in and said, "Hey, late, what did I miss?" You didn't miss anything. We're all groggy and we're just BSing.
Well, it's an interesting concept you talked about there, Marco. And actually, Samsung's got all the tools for this because they've dabbled with things like DeX and sort of desktop environment integration. Obviously, you're running Android, so you're going to need to provide some hooks.
Please, let's never go back to the laptop clamshell that you dropped the phone in.
Yeah, no, we don't need that.
No.
Wait, no,
I don't know. Was that
so? The clam? Yeah, I don't like that idea.
Because then you got to carry the laptop clamshell around with
you
as
got to carry it
to
anyway.
make
You might
use
as
of
well
it.
have all the compute, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I was getting at, like, so the Fold 3, right? It's really thick when it's folded up. So if you can get that reduced by 50%, right, and then use that additional capacity for, say, a fold-out keyboard or something, for input, that's interesting because now you don't need a laptop bag. Microsoft Office and DeX work really well together already with the Android versions. And if you live in Office for most of your workday, That's really compelling. Something with all day battery life that fits in your pocket when it's not in use. You have that small screen if you just need your phone, but then if you have to do work, it's in your pocket. That's cool if it's doable. We need some new battery tech, new input tech, et cetera, et cetera.
Again, showing the advantages here of the foldable display with the camera array on the back. Here you can see again a setup where, hey, you've got, the thing stands on its own. It's a kickstand and all that, but you've got the controls on the secondary display as well. So very functional additional features coming via that fold innovation.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. I'm going to pop this on the screen from James.
Yes.
Integrated security. And so if you rewind a little bit, James, that lick sensor that I applied for the patent was RISC-V based. It was based on RISC-V. So you might be interested to check that out.
That's it. The lick sensor. It has to run low power because you can't electrocute yourself when you lick it.
You know what? While James is here, James, am I pronouncing that wrong? Is it RISC-V or RISC-V?
Oh, it's 5.
You know what his answer is going to be?
What?
RISC-V.
Oh, let's see, James. We got in the chat here. Free phones for early reviews. There you go. You missed that one, James. 5. There you go. I thought it was. Right, it's a Roman numeral. Yeah. There you go.
We had someone comment that it's V for vector, and I'm like, well, yeah, but did you say 5 or V? So whatever.
Interesting. So I guess the bottom line is, what we're talking about is lots of areas of opportunity for innovation where we said that Apple isn't bringing enough. Samsung's trying. What else? What did we miss before we close this
Apple's doing
thing out?
refinement where Samsung is doing the innovation. I mean, also refining as Samsung does, but Apple's pretty strictly in the refinement mode.
They tend to be more iterative these days than they have in days gone by when they literally started the touch display phone revolution, right?
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen. Apple will have a foldable in a couple of generations, and they'll be the ones that got it right, and no one else will get any credit.
Right. Just like they weren't really the first to have a touchscreen phone like that, but they were the first to have a good touchscreen, I think we could say.
Yes, absolutely. No, I remember what were
there was the Samsung Omnia before it, and then
capacitive screens and
stuff. Yeah,
it was rough. That was rough going back then.
I'll whip out my iPad and show everybody what an iPhone looked like before they were phones.
There you go.
Exactly. Well, I think that just about wraps us up, guys. I don't think we're going to reinvent the smartphone market these days, but I think what we talked about was that there's a lot of opportunity that some of these phone makers are missing, and to keep thinking out of the box. And if you want Marco's, lick security sensor technology, we have filed a utility patent, and we could license it, right, buddy?
I'm trying. All the advisors keep telling me no one wants to lick their phone, but why not?
Hey, as long as it keeps it secure, I'm in favor. Yeah, all about security.
They're clean. They're not dirty. It's clean.
Think about the potential for flavors too. You could make like a raspberry swirl lickable phone.
There you go. Like I reached out to Otterbox and said, let's make flavored cases, and then you're all set. It was visionary. I'm surprised that I got talked out of it.
You can get the Nintendo Switch cartridge flavor, the nice bitter.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
See, just right now, with 10 great ideas in 10 seconds. This is unbelievable.
It's beer 30 here. So if you make a beer flavored phone, I'm in. I'm like sold. You'll sell like hotcakes. But anyways, fellas, it was a pleasure catching up with you. Thanks for spending your time with us today. And folks, thanks for joining us. We try to get here on Wednesdays at 5:30. Doesn't always happen. Too much going on sometimes. But this week, Thursday was the day. Thirsty Thursday. Friday tomorrow, folks. I hope the week was a good one. Like, subscribe, hit that reminder bell. We'd so appreciate it. Where you can find us on the web at hothardware.com, twitter.com/hothardware, youtube.com/hothardwarevids. And LinkedIn now, streaming to LinkedIn. Hot Hardware Inc. is up on LinkedIn, and we got stuff going on there too. So lots of fun. I don't know if we got a giveaway coming, Marco. Any promos coming in the near future? Anything lined up yet? Are you envisioning anything? Not lookable?
Nothing that I know of at the moment, but something usually happens pre-CES, and that's coming. And I just want to say, like, I was checking out LinkedIn because this is our first live stream there. The integration is really cool. If you don't follow us on LinkedIn, go follow us, because the integration on LinkedIn is pretty cool for the live streams. So
yeah, good stuff for sure. Microsoft is clearly showing its getting its hooks in there, its influence with LinkedIn. So hopefully we'll be there more often and all hooked up. Chris, any words of wisdom before we say goodbye?
Not a lot of wisdom left today, no.
Don't spit in the wind. Don't tug on the Lone Ranger or whatever. Anyways,
you can't get there from here.
Yeah, that's it. That's the main wisdom, and that's true. But with that, folks, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for stopping by.